Recording.
Hello. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to give it a few more minutes just to have a few more people join, and then we will get started. But in the meantime, since there is kind of quite a few of us, we're not going to do formal introductions, but if you want to type in the chat your name and which agency you were with, we'll use that chat kind of as our attendance today. Okay, I think just to value everybody's time, we'll go ahead and get started. And if anybody decides to join, they're fine. So welcome. I am Kyla. I am the HMIS program manager for those of you that have not formally met me. But welcome to our Q2 DPAL meeting. And for those of you that this is your first DPAL meeting, we try to host these at least twice a year, if not quarterly, just kind of depending on the subject and kind of news that we have for you guys. So today we have kind of a packed agenda. We are going to cover the upcoming data standards that we will expect to be into the system on October 1st. And we'll go over those. And then Jazz and Ben will also go over some training stuff. As you all know, it's refresher training time. So Jazz will walk through that and then just some changes that are going to be coming up moving forward with training and kind of go over that. And then we will wrap up with Stacia presenting kind of an idea that we have for at the end for questions. That you can also type questions in the chat or raise your hand and we will take questions kind of after each subject, or we will allow questions at the end. So Jazz, do you want to go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint? And again, for those of you that just joined, if you just want to type your name and your agency into the chat, we'll use that as kind of our attendance feature instead of having everybody go around. Next slide, Jazz, please. You can actually probably skip to 2. So I am going to start by just having the HMIS team, kind of do introductions as they speak. But I just wanted to kick off and welcome that we do have a new addition to the HMIS team. John joined us at the end of June. So we are welcome, a warm welcome to John. He is going to be, or he is our data analyst. And so he will be helping out on reporting, doing data quality. I'm sure some of you guys have already heard from him on emails. So, welcome, John. This is just a quick bio about John. I won't read it. But I just wanted to do a warm welcome to John. And then I think that has Ben joined us. I am going to hand it over to Ben to start talking about the HMIS data standard changes.
I don't know if Ben's here yet, but let me message him.
Oh, we may be pivoting order. We may be going to training first. Yeah, I don't see him. I can message him, Jazz, if you want to skip towards and we can do training next.
I sent him a message on Slack, so we'll see what he's doing. But yeah, I can talk. We can go straight into training. That's fine. Okay, so let's talk about. We'll let Ben do all of this stuff. All right, let's talk about HMIS training. So a couple of things that I want to talk about first with training. There is a new video that shows how to use the LMS. I know that your staff have had some confusion about how to navigate through the system. Just so that we all know, there is a giant button at the bottom of every video that says complete and continue. They need to click that to move on to the next section. It is consistent in every course. But I did make a video that states this is how you use the LMS. And I went through a demonstration to show all the staff members how to do that. This is on the home screen of the LMS. Everyone is going to need to watch that video, especially as we go into refresher training. It really just tells people how they can move through the system and how they can access the videos that they've already seen. This is really to prevent your staff from failing the test and having to retake the entire course. So for most of the tests, for all of the tests that we have set up for MDHI, these tests have 3 attempts. Each attempt after they're complete will show them which questions that they got wrong. They can go back and review the content to figure out why that question is wrong before attempting to take the test again, as opposed to just trying and failing and then having to repeat the entire course. Laura?
Hey, Jess, question about the test at the end of the training. I don't know if it's specific to the recent refresher module or if this is true for all tests and on the LMS, but is there a limited number of times, like if you fail the test 10 times, will it not let you take it anymore?
It's 3. We've set the final and all of the tests, with the exception of like the knowledge checks or the regular 201, all of the kind of final tests, the end of refresher, these are all set to 3 limits. And it's because we don't want staff to just skip everything and then just trial and error to figure out when they're finally going to get the right answer. So they are set to 3 attempts. After the 3rd failed attempt, they need to email into the help desk and it resets the entire course, not just the test. They go through the course again. Generally, when someone emails me that they failed for specifically the HMIS training, when they failed the final, I will go in and look at their attempts to see like what sections that they have failed. And when I respond, I let them know the course has been reset and the sections that they need to focus on.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, so let's go on to refresher training. Refresher training started yesterday. What day are we at? I don't know, but it started yesterday, September 1st, and it will be running until September 30th. This is the refresher training that we have every year. This is so that staff who are existing HMIS end users can understand the new content, the new changes that have with the data standard changes. So there are some staff, I rolled it out yesterday, and I'm just going to tell you now, the rollout was not perfect. This is the first time that we've used kind of the import tool for the LMS. Our smaller COCs did it with their end users with a smaller number of people, but we were inputting about 650 and there were flaws. Part of that is that when assigned to a group, it automatically gave them like the 101 course as well as the HMIS course. If your staff already have an HMIS login, they don't need to complete this. I am going through to clean up and remove those courses from people. But again, there's 650 that were imported and there's another 300 that already existed. I'm going through individually, one by one, to check people's profiles, ensure that they have the correct courses that they need to complete, that everyone who is required to take the annual refresher training has been assigned the course and has been notified that they've been assigned the course. But this takes a lot of time. This takes a lot of going agency by agency and person by person, comparing reports from one database to another database and making sure that I don't miss any single person. And it is a one-by-one process. Just so that you all, transparency of where I am in the process so far, I have gone through CCH and it's in alphabetical order. So if your agency name has anything to do with Colorado Coalition for the Homeless and below, I have not completed it yet. I've got to about 200, so there's still a vast number of people to go. But over the next couple of days, this week and the beginning of next week, every single person that is required to have refresher training will have it. They will have been notified about it, as well as the email indicating that they need to complete refresher training. Just have to give me a little bit of patience so that I can do this one by one. Because of things like this, the instructor-led portion of the HMIS training is currently on hold. This is a hold that we have to conduct every single year. We have to take a break. And it's just because data standards come in, we have to, in this instance, record new content for the LMS. I have to have a cutoff for where I have people who were trained and require them to take refresher training. And then everyone going forward is not, because they're going to be trained on the new data standards. We are also tied by BitFocus, our software vendor. I can't record new content until I have those updated data standards in a system, whether it be the training site or the live site. I just have to have access to the new data standards to make new videos, and I don't have that yet. So with preparing for refresher training, rolling it out, the work that comes along with that, and having to have that cut off, having to make new content, that is why we have to have this break. I know that your staff need training. We are going to catch up to doing 2 to 3 trainings every week once we get back into training at the end of September and through October. So I am going to try and catch up on everyone that needs training. It's just a required break that I have to take so that I can get everyone trained in the information that they need. So let's see here. So speaking of training, and when we go back into instructor-led training, the first thing that I want you guys to know is that training is hard. This is hard stuff that I am training your staff on. We are not only training them in a brand new software, we're also training them in the HUD standards. And you guys have been through the training for the most part. You see the way that HUD lists things versus what they're asking, and it tends to be different. It is confusing for everyone. So when we comes to the instructor-led training, we really ask that your staff come in with the understanding that they need to be taking notes. They have to pay attention. That we want your staff to come in and have a quiet space so that they can engage in training. They can ask the questions that they need to have. When they're meeting with Ben and myself, this is the last time that they really have access before they go in to do a practice for themselves. This is a time that they have for us to clarify any questions. We know that the videos are not perfect. They're not perfect. It's just not going to be the best way to deliver information to every single person. There's never going to be a way that works for everybody. So we wanted to add that section in so that they have a time with us face to face so that we can break it down and clarify it in different ways to make it make sense to whichever way makes sense for them. I saw there was a question about training. So we're not going to notify those who are waiting, but we are going to message you guys, the DPALs, when instructor-leds are back up. Instructor-led trainings are first come, first serve. If your staff have gone through the videos and the only thing they're waiting for are instructor-led, then I will be emailing you to let you know when those have been put into the system as DPALs. I'll let you all know that they've been input into the system and your staff can go in and register for them. They are not, for sure, they're not going to be until later in September. Shelly.
Yeah, hi, sorry. I just wanted to make sure that the people who have done all those video trainings, like they get priority and can get those instructor-led trainings. You know, we're trying to spend all our money and then, you know, the staff's not trained, and I get the predicament you guys are in. So can we just make sure that people who already right now, you know, they get priority before you open it up to everyone else who has people who just came on?
So for transparency, I wanted to do this on the 31st, but I didn't, simply because we don't have access to the new data standards. But at some point in the next couple of weeks, while I'm getting ready for the new data standard videos, I'm actually going to be deactivating the course. Just on the back end, everything where everyone is at will remain. But essentially, anyone who has not started the course is going to be changed over to the new data standards, so that that's who's having to be trained and where the content that they're going through. And then I have a list of everyone who has gone through the older content, and that I know for these training classes, I need to update kind of what we're telling them and let them know where those changes have happened. This is the overlap that we have to deal with every year, and it's a little bit more complicated. So for your staff who have already completed the videos, like I said, when I go to input those openings into the system, it'll be a whole course reactivation and everything. But at that point, once they are in, that is when they will be first come, first serve. I'm going to let you all as DPALs know, and then you will have to tell your staff that that's the point that they're at, they need to log in and register for these classes. So it's not a matter of like who's coming, like I'm gonna the course in its entirety. So there are going to be people who have to go through the new content, and they won't be able to go through the new content and register for training if your staff have already come in and registered. It'll run the path that it's supposed to.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Okay, so another thing we want to talk about is the instructor-led training and the cancellation process. There's a 48-hour cancellation process or policy for the instructor-led training. They need to email the help desk. I do check them. I know that you guys are sending emails. I'm trying to get them as fast as I can. But one thing we do always look for is somebody being locked out of the system and someone being canceling their instructor-led training. Even if they don't know how to go in the system and cancel it, if they have let me know, I can cancel it so that that spot is opened up for someone else. When those spots open up for someone else, then we can get another staff member in there to take that spot. If you have staff, when we are doing instructor-led training, if you have staff who are waiting for training, standard, we have a training every Tuesday from 1 to 3. I would have them log in at 12:30 to see if there's an open spot. Because I know that it's short notice, but I can't go and manage each individual person. So, but what I can do is hear someone had a cancellation, remove it, and see if somebody wants to join that class. If they do not cancel their training and they do not show up, they get marked as not passed for the instructor-led portion of the training. At that point, when they email me, I tell them that they need to go back to their DPAL and have their DPAL submit another request. This is because I want you all as DPALs to recognize how frequently your staff don't show up to training. There are staff that have done it multiple times. So if I have them having to go back to you to make that request, then you guys can understand that your staff are no-showing to these trainings. When we talk about these no-shows, like the first time that they no-show, it's fine. They go back to you, you submit a request, I will open it up and they can register for the next training class and it's fine. If they do that again and they no-show and they don't cancel, we then waitlist them. I added some numbers here so that you guys can see why this is the policy. So in the month of August for 2021, we held 7 trainings. Our training classes are limited to 10 people a training. And it's just because we've had bigger classes and it's ineffective. It's not a good learning environment for your staff. So 10 is really the kind of sweet spot so that everyone can kind of get the attention that they need, answer the questions that we need, and not be going over time. So we had 70 available training spots. Of those 70 spots, 10 staff no-showed. I had 10 people who didn't cancel their spot, who didn't show up to training. Of the 60 people who did attend training, 9 of them were repeating the course. And these are people who have gone through the instructor-led training, they've gone on to the practical and they failed. Of the 9 people who had to repeat the course, 8 of them did not pay attention in their first training class, just to be candid with you all. I've had someone driving the entire time that we're training. Other people have been on the phone for more than half, like literally on the phone for more than half of the training. Other people have their TV running in the background. If your staff don't come in to try and learn, the practical is not going to be something they are going to pass very easily. So now there's the occasional exception. We had one person who did come in and they really tried that first class. And unfortunately he didn't pass. And I know that he knew the content. He came back to the second class. He was engaged in the class again. And actually for his second practical, I ended up calling him on the phone and we talked about it and I helped him and I did a one-on-one with him to make sure, because I know that he knew the content and that it was more of like a test anxiety situation as opposed to just not paying attention. But if we look at those numbers, that means that there's 19 spots that should have been new staff members. There's 19 additional people that should have been trained and got their HMIS credentials. And if we are on our standard training schedule, which is 1 training a month, that is 2 classes, it's 2 weeks worth of training. So it's really important that your staff are coming in. I know that your staff are being delayed getting into training, but when these are the numbers that we're getting, these are the numbers I pulled for you guys. This is something that happens consistently in multiple months. We've had training classes with 4 and 5 people, and I'm operating at 40 and 50% capacity when I have availability for 10. Your staff have to show up to the training that they're registered for, or they have to cancel it. And that's the only way that we can maintain and have people training regularly. Someone has a question.
It's me, Caesar from the Gathering Place. So what happens if we have a staff that has a disability, like for an example, autism? And some people, some disabilities, I don't like to call it disabilities. The person has autism, so they might have a problem, like for an example, especially on this instructor training and to pass the exam, the final exam. How do we accommodate the type of situation?
That's a really good question that I honestly don't have an answer for. The practical exam is set up in a way, we're going to go over it in just a second, but it's set up in a way that it mimics essentially what your staff are going to be doing with the client. So it's not like the final that they have to take is a test. The practical is not a test. It should be the practice to show that they understand what they have to do. It's in the training site, so it has no implication, but that they can recreate this with real clients in real time.
Correct, and thank you. But in certain situations, because you have the test that if you don't pass, you're gonna have to wait a month or whatever, that adds a pressure to the person. You know what I mean?
Staff are given 6 days to complete these assignments, right? We have trainings on Tuesday. They are not required to, they don't get graded until the following Monday. So they have 6 days to go over this. In the training class, I do tell them, you should go in and put all your answers in the training site now, go through it today, tomorrow, whenever, and then you should revisit before Monday when it's due. And revisit and make sure those are the answers that you want to put in. This is the advice that I give them in every single training class. I know that people are not going to like it's, if you wait until the last minute, then I don't know what to do. Like these are the practices that staff have to do in real time. So this is just a way to make sure that they know how to do it in practice. And yeah, we give them ample time to complete it. And they continually have access. Access is not restricted during that 6 days at all.
And I think if you have, like Jazz mentioned before, like she had this individual that could tell was paying attention in class and was really studying and just happened to be struggling. So we would take those case by case. So if you have a staff person that is really struggling, reach out to the help desk and send an email, and Jazz can kind of look and work with you. We've had this happen a couple of different occasions and try to make accommodations for that staff person. With that said, keep in mind, we do have over 800 end users. So it's not possible for Jazz to work with every single end user on a one-on-one basis. But if they do have some kind of struggles or something that's just preventing them from passing that last piece, reach out to Jazz and at the help desk, and we will try to work with your staff to get over that kind of testing anxiety or whatever may be preventing them from getting over that last piece.
We had multiple staff in the month of August who kind of were in that situation where they had finished training, they're doing the practice exam, and they are second guessing information that they know. But in training, they were engaged, they were answering questions, and they're really genuinely trying. And I have spent many times for the 50 some odd people that we trained in August, there were 4 different people that I spent time on the phone after training. We had a training class that went 45 minutes over because Ben and I will stay. Ben and I will work for the people that want to work. We work for them and we will get them to where they need to be. If they're not trying though, I can't teach effort. But what I can do is I can teach this. I went to school to be a teacher. I can teach it multiple different ways and I can get them to learn it in the end. You know, we go over training and then people will call and talk to me or send me emails. And then I will spend an additional 30, 45 minutes talking to them one-on-one to make sure that they get it too. If they are trying, I will figure out a way to restate the same information that it makes sense to them. All right, so I lost my mouse. All right, so let's talk about an example. For the practical exam, this is something that your clients or your staff are going to get. They get a fake client with a bio that I have made up. And because of the way that training is, I do have to just kind of deliver the information to them. And then they go through and they kind of fill out like a program enrollment with someone. So for example, this is what they're giving. I give them the date, so May 8th, 2020, and the program that they enroll into. We do teach in a rapid rehousing program just because it teaches the conditional logic. So even though some of you may work in emergency shelters where there's not conditional logic, we're going to teach above for the people that need it as the standard. And they'll need the information about like what constitutes a housed situation and what doesn't. But when we do stuff like this, let me go ahead and pull up the training site here. Should work. Here we go. We can use me. Programs. Okay. So they would go into the rapid rehousing program that we use and enroll the client. Generally, we don't have problems with program start date or has the client ever experienced homelessness before. Sometimes we have questions about housing move-in date. If the staff member works at a housing program, then we'll take some extra time. If they work in emergency shelters, where they don't have housing move-in dates, it's kind of neither here nor there. But generally we focus on prior living situation. So if I can, let's see if I can do this. Nope, I can't. It's just gonna switch back and forth. That's fine. So when we do prior living situation, the questions as they are in the system start with type of residence and length of stay in prior living situation. So I will ask you, DPALs, what is this client's type of residence? Or what does type of residence mean?
Okay, I'll go. I can't stand the silence. The type of residence, it basically where they spent where they slept last night is basically, and as far as this type, this would be, isn't it living with or staying with a friend?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's exactly it. So, and then we would say length of stay in prior living situation, right? Which if type of residence is where the client sleep last night, length of stay in prior living situation is how long did they stay there? In this case, 3 days. When you input that into the system, so 2 to 6 nights, it's going to ask you, was that length of stay less than 7 nights? The answer would be yes. And then the next question is on the night before, stayed on the streets in an emergency shelter or safe haven, right? So on the night before what? It's on the night before the type of residence. And I'm going to skip the silence just so that we can move forward for the rest of the meeting. But I want you all to know that this is the kind of training that your staff have to go through. So if at any of this was something that you hesitated to answer, your staff who don't have history in homelessness services, your staff who have never been in HMIS, they have to learn this, and they have to learn how to do it in a brand new software they've never seen before. This is why training takes so long. This is why we focus so much on prior living situation. This is why we give the resources that we give, and we go over it so many different times. Because when you're putting this in for a client, you have to know how to answer these questions. The system says on the night before, and like 70% of the time, people will tell you that it means on the night before they came to the program. Even though they've been through the videos and we've said multiple times, it's not the night before the program. So this is kind of how we go through. After that, we have to teach them how to calculate an approximate date of homelessness. We have to calculate how to calculate number of episodes in the past 3 years. Yeah, go for it, Lynn.
So can we not get clarity to make that question clearer? Because I have been confused, and sometimes I remember and sometimes I have to really think about it. And if they could just put a few words in there, like the night prior to that placement or something like that.
If I could change the system, Lynn, I would have changed it many, many years ago so that it just read, where did the client sleep last night? How long have they been? But no, we can't make those changes. Trust me, I would have done this many years ago.
And we tried, Lynn, we tried to do some clarifying like guidance on the paper forms. But what we have found is we have a lot of questions and we're trying to minimize the space. So we tried to put some of that guidance in there, and then we heard from our staff that the forms can't be 12 pages long. We need shorter forms. So we tried to take out some of that context. So it's kind of a fine balance of how much of that like clarity can we put on the actual paper forms as they're reading it through, because we can't make changes on that system, but then still making those paper forms kind of manageable for the staff to take with them. So we are, open for suggestions on any of that kind of stuff, just knowing that our space is kind of limited on the paper forms and we can't adjust the system for stuff like that.
Would there be a way to kind of make a quick guide that would like explain what each question is?
We do have I will have to look at the end user guide to see if it clarifies in there. But
I just know my team has had a lot of struggle with passing the different phases, and I don't think it's because they're not trying. I don't think it's because of a lack of effort. I think sometimes it is, but sometimes it isn't. It is hard. And so part of me is like, how can we make it so that so you're having less people that are retaking, and I don't know, like I know maybe a quick guide, or I don't know, something like that like a cheat sheet that they can look at and reference might be helpful.
One of the things in the system, like when we talk about the LMS, and if they watch that video of how to use the LMS, one of the things that I can even show you, let's see, I'm just kidding, here we go. Let's see, if I will, this person doesn't have it. Kyla, are you still in here? I think so. Okay. Oh, God.
It should be in there. I don't know when you change this stuff.
I don't know why it's upset. We'll just start over. Okay. So let's see here. Actually, AK is here and AK's already done it, so I'm just going to use your account. Okay, so this is the class that they're in. So for example, when they're on the final, they have this at the top right. I don't know why it's just not going through. But up here in the top right, when they're on the final, they have access to everything. It's probably because it's completed that I can't go through it. Let me see if I can do it in my own account. Switch to learner. Look, I haven't done it. Okay. So like, here's the final test. If they progress through, like, here's the final, this is where they're going through. They can legitimately go through a question. Here is a question. Maybe I don't know the answer. Right here, if they hover, and this is, like I said, this is in a video that's on the homepage, they can see me do this in real time, but they have access to, right, okay, if I can't find my client when searching by name, what should I do next? I just don't remember what the video said. Fine. Here's searching for a client. Now here's the video that goes over searching for a client. So now I figured out what my answer is. I can go back to the final, answer this question, and go to the next one. If they were to, like, if I just arbitrarily answered all of these with anything, at the end of the final will tell them what was correct and which questions were wrong. And before starting a new attempt, they can go back and look, hey, well, this question is what I got wrong. Let me go look at the section and why it was wrong. We're just gonna fail, it's fine. I don't know. Also, as they're answering these, I will just tell you, your staff should pay attention to the question, because it does say like how to answer that. So the questions are generally multiple choice. Some of them are not multiple choice, but we have to code things a certain way. So like it'll ask the date, and it says specifically to enter like month, day, year. So here, I've taken the test, I failed it. Well, this question here, the first one I answered is correct. Second question was correct. I can scroll down to see where I got an answer wrong. So what is an episode of homelessness? On the night before refers to what? You can review the questions that you got wrong, even if you want to do it one by one. Go back to like program enrollment, or go back to prior living in situation. This is the question I got wrong. Here's the answer I gave. Here are the available answers. Why is that question wrong? Once you've figured it out, you go back to the final and say, now I know why that question was wrong and what to answer the next time. And they can list for every single incorrect question before attempting to take the test again.
One thing just to note, because we've heard this too, is the status of if they got it correct or incorrect is at the beginning of the question, not at the end of the question. So when they're reviewing this final thing, is like what Jazz has on the score, that incorrect refers to the question that's right underneath it.
Yeah, where this picture.
So when they're reviewing that, they're what they've gotten right and wrong, just let them know that their answer, like the status of the question, if it was incorrect or correct, is at the beginning of the question, not at the end.
There is a very faint line that separates these questions in the system. You just have to kind of look. I believe the minimum passing grade is somewhere above 90%. I think that out of 30 questions, we allow them to miss 2.
Yeah, it's at a 93 right now.
So it's really, it's not necessarily the number, it's really just how many questions we allow them to get wrong before they move forward. So they can miss 2 questions of a 30 question quiz. But they have access to this, and this doesn't go away. They can click off of it as many times as they need to and then come back. You know, I got this incorrect, obviously, because I just hit the keyboard. But, you know, if I don't know, why did I get this incorrect? It's about disabling condition. Just go back up to the top, right? I'm going to go back and I'm going to review disabling conditions and barriers. And when you're playing this, if you need to scroll through, right, we'll scroll through and be like, okay, what section do I need? You can scroll through this video. Find exactly the answer of why that one is wrong. What is wrong with that question? What should I have answered instead? Make note of it, go back and do that for all of your questions, because the next time when they go to repeat this final, it's the same 30 questions, it's just in a different order. But it's the same questions. So they can understand why something was incorrect, and they have the information to go back and review it again before attempting the final again. That's why I really want to encourage you that your staff are not just, I took the final and I failed it, and just took the final again and now I failed it, took the final again and now I just failed it. It shouldn't be trial and error. It should be, why did I get this question wrong? Let me figure it out and then go back and correct myself. All right, move on. I didn't even know these transitions existed. Okay, so after they do the instructor-led portion of the training, the last thing that they need to do to complete the course, there is a survey. They are not required to input information, but they can. And this is just so that you guys know that we do review this content, the survey, the information that they put in. So these are a couple of things that we got. This program is so helpful. The training and website was are very user-friendly to access. Client profile and enrollment were heavily focused on, while notes, assessment, and exiting, I do not feel like got the same amount of attention during the training. This is true. And it's because prior living situation has a tendency to be the thing that trips everyone up the absolute most. But Ben and I can see feedback like this and understand that we need to adjust what we're doing in our training, what time we're spending on certain sections, so that we can focus on the things that people feel like are lacking. We had the situations where we wanted to spend a little bit more time on prior living situation. We know that profiles are very basic. They're fairly data entry, right? Your name goes in the name section, your date of birth goes in the date of birth section. So we have condensed the amount of time that gets spent on profile. It's very kind of pop quiz, and then we move on to the stuff that is harder that really does need us to explain. So we review this kind of stuff to make adjustments. The trainers were incredibly knowledgeable about all things HMIS, and although it took some time, all the information received was useful, valuable, and will prove applicable. Training does take time, and that's again because it is difficult. And it just is difficult by nature. I believe the training would be better if there were more instructor-led trainings and I didn't have to wait weeks in between the self-led and the instructor-led training. We don't want your staff to wait weeks. However, if we go back and revisit those numbers that we had just for the month of August, this is something that is a recurring theme. So I really just want you guys to impart on your staff that A, they have to come to training and actually be paying attention and working with it. And that B, if they're going to cancel, to please cancel so that we can get someone else in there, so that we can get new staff. Ben and I adjust the training schedule based on the need that is in the LMS and the people that need training. However, it is ineffective for us to add more trainings just because people are not showing up. So we need people to show up. For context, one training class takes me about 6 hours of work, including the time that I'm spent in the training class. So that is almost one complete day that I have to spend just on everything. And that is one part of everything else that has to get done. So we can't continue to add more and more training classes and have them with more frequency, only to have 4 and 5 people show up to every class. If there genuinely is 10 people that need to be and they're going to be in every class, we will add additional classes. I don't understand why we need to do the online training if we're also going to do the Zoom training and not introduce any new information. I feel like it would make a lot more sense to just do it all on Zoom. So that way people can ask questions when they need to, but also to promote engagement in the actual Zoom class. This one kind of tickled me because those of you who have been here for a while know that this is how we did training. We did it all strictly in Zoom. There was no LMS. But I wanted to add this comment because I want you guys to see that we are evolving training as we see that there are different training needs. When we did the full Zoom training and that's all that staff were getting, we found that a significant amount of people were not going to be, it wasn't a successful thing for a significant amount of people. I don't know what the percentage was, but we just saw that enough people struggled and that it wasn't an effective way to deliver the content. And that is why we've made changes. There are always going to be some staff members that can go through the videos and they're good, or just go through a 3-hour meeting with us and they're done and they've got it. But that is not going to be true of every person. And it was just significant enough that we needed to make the changes to training and evolve it to a new way. Overall, I really enjoyed utilizing the LMS for training, especially with the combination of the in-person to give the opportunity for questions and clarification. And that was the whole reason that we added it in, so that people could talk to us and give scenarios and we can frame it in a way that will make sense for them.
And I just want to plug again, like what Jazz says, is we use this feedback to modify the training. So please encourage your staff to fill out those surveys at the end. Or if you as DPAL are hearing from your staff about what worked well and what didn't work well, please submit a help desk ticket and let us know that. We use that feedback to adapt the training. We want this training to be useful for all. And we know, as Jazz has said, is we have adapted it over the last year or 2 years to try to make it better and more efficient. So we can't do that if we don't hear from you guys about what's working well and what doesn't.
Yeah. Also, I love when they tell me like, oh, this example made it click. And I'm like, yes, see, we just added this random part where we start doing the examples and it makes sense to people. So yeah, we try new stuff all the time. This is just a screenshot of the LMS. Once again, I have made a video that exists on the homepage. They don't even have to log in. It is just there and it says, here's how, and it will go over stuff like this. But really quickly, I just want to show you that the arrow is pointing to the courses that they will have been assigned. So if they hover over the course, they can click play and begin the course. The percentage at the bottom will show you how much of the course you have completed. But for those staff who are moving on to the instructor-led section and they need to log in to get ready for their training, they need to go to their calendar, which is circled here on the right. There is no link that gets sent out. I do not manually send out Zoom links anymore. Everything is contained within the LMS. If they are registered for a training class, they go to their calendar. It'll show on the calendar. Once they click on the actual training, 15 minutes before the start of training, there will be a join button that will launch the Zoom. It will put them into the training or to the waiting room. You guys should have seen the waiting room earlier today when you all joined in. I didn't have time to edit it for the DPAL, and I usually only use Zoom for training. So you just happen to have seen what they see. So they get put into the waiting room and done. I know that you asked if DPALs will have access to see how far their staff are, and I can't do that, unfortunately. It's just kind of the way that things are set up in the system. I don't have a way of making like a manager role so that you can monitor your staff. But if you ever want to know, you can always send me an email with your staff and I will tell you where they exist. Have an agency that regularly sends me a list of staff, and I will just go through. It's even better if you send it on an Excel sheet, because I'll just go through and tell you exactly where they are one by one. So you can email me and I will figure it out. And I just want to revisit the policies for HMIS. So after being registered in the LMS, the staff do have 60 days to begin their training. After 60 days, their account gets reactivated and they need to begin the training process again. I have not been, we're on limited licenses, the same way we have limited licenses for HMIS. It has not really been a problem up until now, but now that everyone is in the system, I do need to be monitoring how many licenses that we're using so that training and HMIS both can remain free of cost for you guys as agencies. So when you have staff who leave, even if you have submitted a training request and they haven't even gone through training, but they are leaving, please let me know so that I can remove them and recycle their license. If you have staff who have HMIS access, please let me know when they leave so that we can deactivate them. I saw there were a couple of questions.
I have one. Since we've been adding a lot of new staff members that they need to have the HMIS. I noticed that we are having a problem with people like taking a month and a half to complete their training, which puts an onus on the other ones who already have completed, because we ended up having to do their data entry. So my question is this, because I'm trying to set up a policy on how on a timeline. Would you say that for you to get this LMS and the training done, what would you say that is like, if you have an idea of that it would take for all the training to be completed on the shortest period of time?
Yeah, Ben, you have those numbers, don't you?
I do. I made those numbers. I can try and find them, but off of the top of my head, if I recall, it is roughly 3 hours of video content, followed by our usually 2 to 2.5 hour training. And then we expect anywhere between 20 minutes and an hour for the practical. So I would say it's very doable to do in a week for one staff member. On the low end, if they want to space it out, take more time, obviously it's an unlimited time horizon for that. But yeah, to watch all the videos, 3 hours worth of content, you can get that done in a day. It might be overwhelming. You might want to spread that out over 2 days. Then you have the wait time between finishing the final and actually getting into an instructor-led. But like Jazz has been saying, if we have less people no showing to the instructor-leds, that's timeline is going to go down. Instructor-led's going to be about 2-ish hours, and then they'll have an hour-ish to finish the practical. It can go faster or slower depending on their workflow. But definitely, I would say the only thing that stops them from doing it within a couple of days would be the lag time between finishing the videos and the final and getting into instructor-led.
And then just on another calendar part for that is usually the last month's or the next month's trainings are posted by we're still on that kind of cadence of by the 15th of the month, that the next month's trainings will be up there. So I'm not going to use September as an example, because We're not having any instructor-led trainings this month, but on a regular, not refresher time, like October 15th, you will know that November's trainings will be posted. Even though there may still be some opening in October, you at least know around the 15th of the month, if you have new staff coming on, you can tell them, hey, on the 12th or the 13th, log in, do all your videos. That way, when they post on the 15th, you can be one of the first ones to get the ones in November, if October happens to be full.
One of the things that we also do is at the end of training, when everyone has gone, Ben and I take a moment to go into the LMS and see where registration is. And if registration is full and kind of when we're going to be posting new ones, we evaluate every single training class if we need to add additional trainings for the time period that we're looking at. So we are constantly monitoring that. Like I said, though, it's really difficult to add additional training classes just because half of our class didn't show up.
Yeah, to speak to that, for June and July, we both added one additional course in the last week. And then for August, we actually added 2 additional courses to make room for the time off we're taking for refresher. So we've been consistently adding between 10 and 20 extra staff members a month that are not signed up on the 15th.
You can ask your question, Laura.
Thanks. I just want to make sure I'm 100% clear. No instructor-led trainings until October. Those dates will not be released September 15th.
Late September. I don't want to give you guys a specific date.
Okay.
I am just tied by BitFocus. I absolutely have to have time to like block everything out and just record in the new screen, like with the new data standards, but I can't get access to the new data standards yet.
So yeah, Laura, so on the 15th of September, you will not see any new dates.
No.
But we will send an email out to DPALs once we have had the chance to record it and say, okay, we're gonna go back on the schedule, go ahead and log in and get those. But yeah, it wouldn't, it's off, it's gonna be off. So not September 15th, just ignore this month. But going back into October 15th, November's trainings will be released.
And like I said, I'll send out an email to all of the DPALs, like, hey, tomorrow morning, the training dates that we have upcoming are going to go into the system. I don't know how many weeks that's going to be for, honestly, just because we have 18,000 other things going on. I don't have the brain capacity to think that far into the future. And I know that you asked when you can start submitting names again for the LMS. Some of you have emailed and I told you September 13th, but we have actually heard back from BitFocus that pushes us back about another week. So the week of September 20th, you can start submitting them again to the help desk for us to register in the LMS. It may not be, they may not get registered for another week just because of the time frame for things. I can't get a definitive, like, this is absolutely the date that it's going in. So I'm just trying to juggle it and wait. And I also don't want your emails to say that like they've sat there for 3 weeks. So that's why we kind of put a delay on that. You had a question, Shelley?
Yeah, so one of the things we've been running into is with some of the new staff we're hiring, so many people are, oh, I've used HMIS, I don't need the training again. And, you know, I always include that to you, and I respect whatever decision you make because you are the queen of it all. So, but they're always so upset. Why do I have to do it? I've used this, but then I also find when it comes to the trade, they start going, oh, I don't know any of this, which I get, which is why you're making them do this. But what is the policy on that? Do we have a policy?
We sure do.
I never know what to tell them. I'm like, I don't know.
So it's actually a statewide policy, not an MDHI policy. It was set by the collaborative. The system itself will kick you out after 90 days of inactivity. But for the state, people who don't access the system for 6 months are going to be required to retake the training.
So wait, so if somebody came from another place and they haven't used it for over 6 months, they do have to take the retraining.
Correct.
Okay, and so
even if they were at your agency, if Shelley, you log in for the next 6 months and then you tried to log in, I would tell you that you had to retake the training.
Well, that makes sense. Oh, they're making it sound like they were just on it, like the day before they started with us, but okay.
I can show you because
Oh, no, you're fine. I just.
no, well, I have this this handy dandy Excel spreadsheet that everybody is on every
Mhm.
and on this spreadsheet, you can see here, the ones who turn yellow have not logged in 90 days. You won't be able to see them because they're not there anymore. But all the people who are red have not logged in over 6 months.
Oh, interesting.
So,
Okay.
and they get marked with this, like when I deactivate,
Mhm.
with this deactivated. So sometimes I'll go through and like I'll do my import and I'll have people, let's say, who haven't logged in 6 months, these turn red. I check to make sure this will actually say 183 days or more, and then they get deactivated from the system.
Okay.
So when you email in someone's name, we have a completely separate access role, but you'll email in someone's name. I go into the system and check. I will see what their access role is. I will see when is the last time that they logged into the system. And if it was longer than 6 months ago, they will have to go through training again.
Okay, good to know. I've had people go, oh, I know Jazz, she'll be all right with it. I'm going, really? Because I don't think that's how she works.
It's not. It's not. There's a policy. It is blanket for everyone. So yeah, and like I said, even those of you who have been in HMIS even before I started 3 years ago, those of you that I know have been in the system, if you do not access the system for 6 months, you have to go through training again. I love you guys, but you'll have to go through training. And honestly, by the time the 6 months is rolled around and someone has to go back in through the training, generally the training that they're going to go through is a better iteration than the training that they were in before. And so it's always like kind of a benefit that they have to go through that again because they're going to have it better. Jess?
Hi, how are you, Jazz? I'm Jess Ulrich from MHP, and I think you'll probably all know that Jean has been our DPAL for like forever and a day, and she's retiring in December, and so I'm going to be taking over the DPAL duties. And as I hear you, I have a couple of staff in mind that kind of, I'm like, maybe they should take this training again. Is that something that's possible? For instance, I have 2 people that really just logged in every month and didn't do anything in HMIS actually at all. But because Jean was doing it, now with Jean leaving, they're going to actually have to start doing data. And this training seems like something that they could really benefit from. Is that possible?
Absolutely. So that is something that I'm absolutely here for. If you recognize that your staff who already has been through some iteration of training, it was not really a successful thing and that they should go through training again, just email me and let me know, right? Specify that like this person has already been through training, but I think that they should go through training again. That's something that we rely on you DPALs for. You guys to deal with your staff every day. You're working with them on a regular basis. So if you see like this person does not understand this very well, their data quality is not really great, and you want them to go back to the training, I will put them back to the training, not a problem.
And this training with this practice in the training site, that's just only been happening for a few months. Is that correct?
It has. We got into the LMS in, I think we got it in February and I put everyone in March or April.
Okay, so if they were trained last year or previous.
Sorry, say that again.
Sorry, if they were trained in HMIS 201 last year or previous to that, they didn't have a chance to take it in this format.
They didn't. We did something similar when we went kind of virtual, where they did have a practical, but there were just parts of training that were ineffective. And as we go forward, it's always going to be, the current iteration is always going to be the best iteration. That's our goal anyway. So there were just flaws. There were flaws in our virtual format. When we went virtual, I did implement a practical exam. So staff would sit for the 3-hour training where we talked, and then they did have to do a practical and do a practice that was graded by me. But the delivery was ineffective because it was a 3-hour training where we're just 3 hours of word vomit. It's bad.
Sure.
So to now change it to kind of this self-paced so that people can go through, they can rewatch it, they can redo the content over and over again. They always have access to, and so it's just a better delivery. And then they also have the instructor led, so they have time to sit with us. For instructor led, we really kind of just quickly go through the system. We quickly go over profile and searching. It's not something that's like a difficult part of training, so we just kind of burn through it. We spend a lot of the time focused on the program enrollment so that people can complete intakes for their agencies and have really good data quality. And then we kind of go over the additional steps that you might do with a staff member. But if at any time they also like don't remember how to input notes or they don't remember what assessments are for, they can always log back into the LMS and go see those videos still. We feel like the prior living stuff is the stuff that is hard, like really complex, and that requires us to teach it in multiple different ways.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Cool. Are there any other questions about training? I think this is the last training slide, Kyla.
Okay, yeah, if there's not any other questions about training or some come up, you can put them in the chat. But if you want to go back to the beginning, Jazz, and we'll have Ben go through real quick just the data standard changes that are coming up in October.
Sure.
There we go. Okay. We needed math space there for sure. Okay, yeah. So let's talk some data standards because they are all changing. You want to go to the next one? Sweet. Okay, so I've highlighted the main changes to the data standards that are coming up effective on October 1st. The big ones that are going to affect everyone, the universal data elements that are changing are in race, ethnicity, and gender. So for those, they are specifically changing some of the wording and adding some multi-select features. So for race, they're adding a couple more options to the race field. Mainly, they're not adding new options to click on, but they are expanding the definition for some of their options. So they are they're adding a lot more of like words separated by commas to each of the options that you've always had. So for example, American Indian, Alaska Native, or Indigenous is a new thing that they've just added. They've made Black, African American, or African. So they're adding words to clarify those options to be more inclusive for anyone that is being asked for their race. They've done a similar thing for ethnicity, where they have changed, it used to be non-Hispanic, non-Latino. Now it is non-Hispanic, non-Latin, O or X. So trying to make it more inclusive there as well. The biggest change for the universal data elements is going to be in gender, where they have added more options to gender and they've made it multi-select. So now staff are able to select multiple options for gender if clients identify as multiple options. They also have added the questioning as an option. So questioning is different than client doesn't know, and it should be treated as different. Questioning is for any client that is questioning their sexual orientation or their gender orientation, I should say. It is not the same as client doesn't know, and it's not going to count as a negative for data quality. So those are the main big universal data elements that are changing. They have also changed some program-specific data elements. The one that affects everybody is going to be the mental health disorder and substance abuse disorder changes. Here, they've changed the wording from mental health problem and substance abuse problem to mental health disorder and substance abuse disorder. And that's the only change there as well. Question?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. I have a question about the quiz itself from the training. Can I ask a question about it, assuming that not everybody has taken it? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So the question, and full disclosure, it may be just that I didn't catch it in the video, but the question is about the gender section, and the question says, on the quiz says, one of the choices is person is questioning their gender or their sexuality. But I didn't think sexuality was in there. I thought it just had to do with gender.
No, it shouldn't. And we did make an edit. We might need to go back and re-edit it. This was something that came up in the training work group. So across should not be someone's sexual orientation or their sexuality, because we don't care.
Right, that's what I thought.
And identity.
So then I thought that I missed the question because I was like, wait, it's none of these. Okay.
Let me go back and check that. That's one that I know that we as a group, so the refresher training is created as a group by myself, Pikes Peak and Northern Colorado, and Ben. So we created all of this. We're a team of 4. But I will go back and check that. I know that that is one that came up kind of as we were all getting ready to push out the refresher. And Tuesday was a very complicated day for everybody. So I'll go check it.
Cool, thanks.
It is gender identity. I just want to clarify. We're talking about identity.
Okay, the other big change around gender is that now that it is multi-select, the guidance from HUD when dealing with transgender individuals is for you to select either female transgender or male transgender based on how your client identifies, because you can select multiple. So that's their guidance specific on that. If a client just wants to be identified as transgender, you can always just select transgender. You don't have to specify female or male as well. But that is now a new option. Okay, talking about coordinated entry elements, they've updated the coordinated entry event element to include now receiving funds from like a flex fund or EHV referrals. So that is just trying to update as the system's changing, they're adding that to the coordinated entry event. If you're using coordinated entry, that is now an option for anytime you're collecting those coordinated entry events. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay. Oh, cool. And then there are some federal partner program elements that have changed as well. So for our COC data elements, they have added a couple of different statuses and new elements to programs, mainly PSH programs specifically. So there's a well-being data element, which is now asking clients about their specific well-being. It is a full new question that is supposed to be done at program start or at updates. The moving on data element is very similar. Let me pull them up, sorry. So the well-being element is asking things like, does your client perceive their life has value and worth? Do they perceive they're receiving support from others who listen to problems? It is a 5 specific questions. If you're curious on what they all are, you're welcome to check it out in the data standards. And those are specific to project start, annual assessments, and project exits are when we're expecting those well-being assessments to be inputted into the system. The moving on assessment is very similar. It is, once again, only for permanent supportive housing programs. And it is only at the occurrence point of when a client is moving on. And so it has questions on like moving on assistance. And then the general health status is another very specific data point that is specific to RIE programs. If any of these apply to you and you want to know more about them, please check them out in the data standards. The data standards have far more documentation on that. And then we also, in the refresher training, as part of the bundle of PDFs that are with the refresher training, we go into more depth on there as well. And then the SSVF also has new options if those apply to you. Once again, please check those out. There are about financial services, financial assistance services. So there's new options there. And then specifically the homelessness prevention targeting criteria. So those are the main data standard updates. Yes.
Working on new intake forms as we speak.
Yes, they are made, we are editing them. So absolutely, not just the system will be updated, but also paper versions as well.
And as Ben mentioned, all those files are available to you. And if you're curious of where to access the files, you can go to the LMS, and on the homepage, there's a how to use Talent, and it'll show you.
Exactly. Any other questions about the new changes? Alrighty. Well, that's all I have for you.
Okay, so I think we need to skip on the slides to the resource slide, and we'll hand it over to Stacia.
Hello. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Stacia Wisnat. I'm the HMIS Partner Agency Specialist. And just wanted to run an idea past you guys that I brought up to Kyla. So we just wanted to present it to the group. So I was kind of thinking maybe we could have like a DPAL only section on Zendesk. If you guys would think that would be helpful. And also, if you do think it would be helpful, what kinds of things would you like to see on there? I would say, thank you, Laura. I would say nothing really like pertaining to training, since, you know, that's pretty much its own like element and has, you know, has its own corner, but just some ideas that we came up with, like links to these meetings in case any of your staff has missed them. Any of the manuals, in case you have like 5 years to read them, you know, the HUD, ESG, or program manuals. And we can, like, you know, post any changes that have happened between DPAL meetings, and any like outside videos that might be useful, excuse me, be useful in your work. And also a name. So if any of those names, DPAL spot, DPAL district, DPAL zone, if any of those resonate with you, drop that in the chat, or if you have your own idea. I thought about Metro Denver DPAL resources, but the acronym for that is MDDR. And whenever I look at that, I just see murder. So probably don't want to use that one. So yeah, if any of those, okay, we have, oh, okay, DPAL OGs, that might work. But yeah, so Martin, he's voting for murder. Well, I guess that could also be MDDR. It could be medical doctor instead of murder. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, do you guys think this would be something that would be useful? And also, I just want to say, like, especially for new DPALs, like we always say, you know, everything is available on Zendesk. So this will just kind of get you into the habit of going to Zendesk. You know, especially if you have your own kind of zone there. So first of all, would this be helpful? What do you guys think? Okay.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful. And I would love to have like a forum where we could post questions or issues that we're having that other agencies could weigh in on. And I'll give you an example that was actually in the refresher training about, I think it was about, client doesn't know, client refused, data not collected. And Denny was talking about, like, yeah, you can use that, but you're going to get penalized for it, which we all know. And sometimes we feel like that's really punitive and not fair, because, like, if it's an option, why do we get penalized for it? But one thing that happens at Family Tree with our rapid rehousing, especially for our domestic violence rapid rehousing specific program, is that we're trying to house our clients, right? So HUD specifies that we have to do the enrollment before they're housed, right? When they are deemed eligible for the program. So we enroll them, and then we try to get them housed, and then they disappear and we can't get a hold of them. So then is that it's not data not collected, because we try, we attempt to call them, we attempt to email them, we try to find them on wherever they might be in their car. So then we put client refused because we couldn't get a hold of them. So I'm curious what other agencies do in that specific example. So that's a forum. I would love to have a place where I could post that, say, this is a scenario that's coming up more and more for us. What are other people doing? That's what I would love to use it for.
Do you mean like where, like on your exit, Laura? Because you exit them from the program. So just from a training standpoint, the exit would be no exit interview completed, because they've essentially disappeared from the program and you don't have any information about where they've gone. So in that scenario, the selection would be no exit interview completed, which is still not a great outcome, but.
Yeah, and I don't know if one makes more difference than the other, client refused or no exit interview completed.
I mean, we kind of, when it comes to like measuring is just like good, bad, and that binary, and they both fall into bad. But like if you wanted to drill down, it would really kind of be like, it is no exit interview completed, indicating that this client just disappeared and went MIA.
Yeah. Okay, good to know.
As far as the forum, I'm not really sure that's possible on Zendesk. Jazz or Kyla?
There is, I believe, a way to make a section so that you all can chat with each other. I believe there is. I would have to look into Zendesk. I
Yeah, no,
set it up.
that's a really good suggestion, Laura. Thanks for bringing that up. We will check into seeing the possibility. If it's not something that we can do through Zendesk, it may be something that we can do almost like Slack. And see if there is a way that we can do some kind of community forum for you all to be able to talk to each other. Of course, we'll want to put some rules and stuff in place. You cannot submit help desk tickets through the community forum or through whatever it is. They will not get answered. So there is, but it is a good idea. So we'll take note of that and we'll look to see if there is some kind of platform that we can make for you guys to be able to talk to each other.
What
sorry,
are those? Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I'm sorry, Shelley. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the reporting, there's that other, I can't think of what it's called, where you're supposed to be able to pull up reports and set them up the way you want specific reports. And I've been trying to get help with that for, it feels like a year now. It could be.
Are you talking about Looker?
Yes, Looker, thank you. And I don't think I have access to it is part of the problem. And because I don't seem to be able to do anything, but I can't really get time with anyone. People have told me, well, I'm available on these days, but what I need to do is probably like schedule an appointment with someone or a meeting to figure out once and for all what's not working for me, or if I'm just don't have any clue what I'm doing.
Let me take a look in the system. Just so you all are aware, we had an update to the way that our licenses are in BitFocus, and it changed some things. So let me look in the system and make sure that everything is set up for you. And then if you can tell me kind of what report you're looking for.
We can, Shelley, I'll make note. And I know there was a ticket and I think it was back and forth, between Matt and then, Brenn and several people. And I think you were on vacation. I remember the ticket coming through. And so I think there was just a disconnect. I will follow up and we will get you time to either work with Ben and or John. To just do a screen share and walk you through. Jazz will check to make sure you have appropriate access. And then we will follow up with you to get a time to walk through with you on it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, no, it's been there's been so much going on the past year. I mean, I get it. So thank you.
Okay, cool. I think those are all the words I had. So I think we're in consensus not to call it murder. So yeah, cool.
That's a shame. I thought it would be hilarious.
Murder.
Okay, and I think that leaves us just with wrap up. I just wanted to mention, and this is kind of in Stasia's court as well. You all should have heard from her about this year's monitoring. So HMIS monitoring, as you know, since the pandemic has hit, we've kind of gone to more of a virtual approach. And this year we are trying a new method to where we are. You should have received a form to fill out. And then if you would like a site visit, you can reach out and ask Stacia, and she's doing those virtually, but we're trying to do the majority of the HMIS monitoring through this form. And then we are also kind of taking a look, asking you to take a look at your data quality. There's some stuff that she sent out to you. So if you have any questions about monitoring or anything like that, feel free to reach out to Stacia and she'll be able to help you through it. We are trying, that is something we are working through as a COC, is what does that look like? What does HMIS monitoring look like? And we have kind of morphed it over the years, and then COVID hit. And so kind of threw a wrench in everything. So we are doing our best to, we're there for you guys whenever, but this year-round monitoring is just trying to make sure that, everything is going well, and, your security setup, you're not sharing passwords, you're not, sharing logins, kind of that kind of stuff, overall monitoring. And then if you have any specific questions, you can schedule a site visit with Stacia, and she can jump on a call with you.
And I also just wanted to throw in there, like Kyla said, we're trying to see what feels right with monitoring. And I have questions about like how we're doing it this year. So hopefully it'll be refined for next year. I don't know. To me, it just didn't feel good to me to send people, like a bunch of documents to look over when I know everyone is so busy. So we're looking at maybe just doing a form for next year and moving forward. And also they probably will be virtual from now on. So yeah, I mean, and also if you didn't happen to receive a form from me, just let me know. And unfortunately, I'm just not able to meet with everybody because we've had like an explosion of agencies and I'm just one person. So until we can figure out human cloning, I just won't be able to meet with everyone, unfortunately. But of course, if you want to meet with me, I will definitely make the time. I've met with like 4 or 5 agencies so far. So yeah. So just wanted to let you know it's like a work in progress and hopefully it'll be much better next year and a better use of everyone's time, especially your time. Anything else on that, Kyla?
No, and I would just add, as you guys know, and several of you guys have taken us up on this, anytime that if you guys have any questions or you feel like you're struggling in an area or you want us to kind of help you walk through a process, you're not sure if you're doing it right, please reach out to the help desk. Like we can do, virtual visits. We can, there's a couple times that, we've actually been able to go out on site and kind of walk through with people as well. So not just monitoring time, I would just plug, any time of the year. If you're needing some assistance and you need some help with anything, just reach out to the help desk and we will schedule time for you to talk to one of us and walk through. And we'll try to be as clear as possible in the help desk ticket of what areas you need help with. That way we assign the right person to follow up with you the first time. So I just want to plug that. You don't have to wait till the once a year monitoring visit. Please reach out to the help desk. We're here for you guys and whatever we can do to help with that. We're happy to.
We've gone to multiple agencies just to see how their clients move through their spaces and how we can make things efficient for them. Like we do it, well, we did it a lot before. We all stayed in our houses forever.
So that is all we have for today. And I know we're running a little bit close to time. We have 5 minutes left. Any other questions or anything else that you guys would like to walk through? We can also follow up. If you have follow-up questions, you can send tickets to the help desk. We're happy to answer them there too. But with the 5 minutes left, is there any burning questions that you all have?
Hey everyone, this is AK. I just wanted to say thank you as a newish DPAL at UC Health. It's been nice to be a part of this. I think just one question, I think actually it was answered already, but if I heard correctly, basically request to get someone, I have 2 new teammates on the homeless transition team that will need to take the LMS. And so just wait till late September to make that request. Okay, I passed the first test. Just want to make sure I heard that right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's just because I don't want you guys to have emails that are going to sit there for weeks. It does count on our end how long emails sit there respond, and I don't want to destroy those times either. You guys will just have like an email that will just sit there for 3 weeks, so I can't do anything with it until I can get new content and have brand new staff members going through the new stuff. And so I just need to put a little bit of a delay so I can also answer all the emails that come in, because I emailed 650 of you guys about refresher training, which means I'm gonna get like 650 emails back about it.
And we will send out a kind of a reminder email that says, okay, we're up and running, everything's ready to go. You can now submit new tickets. So you don't have to remember. We will send you guys out kind of a massive email.
That sounds great. Thank you very much. Nothing wrong with strategic delay. We can appreciate that. So thank you.
Also, if anyone is not getting the DPAL emails and you need to be, just email the help desk and let us know.
Okay, well, we will stay on for a few more minutes if anybody else has anything, but if not, thank you all for joining. We will send out this recording and the PowerPoint slides out to the distribution list so you all can have it. And then we will, Stacia will work over the next couple months to get the resource page up and running on Zendesk, where you can find this stuff too. So we will send a link to that as well.
If you guys need anything, please don't email staff directly. You can always email the help desk and we'd be happy to help you.
Thank you all.
I guess no questions.
Oh, I think we forgot to tell John to stay on, which is fine.
Oh, bye, John.
Oh, he can rejoin. I'll message him.
It's fine.
Do we pause the recording?
Yes.